My phone says 5. All right, we're going to call this combined work session, regular meeting, and possible executive session in the town of Parker today. Please silence your electronic devices. Roll call of council, please, Darcy.
Mayor Hartless.
Here.
Vice Mayor Waddell.
Here.
Councilmember Shantz.
Here.
Councilmember Daniels.
Present.
Councilmember De Leon. Absent. Councilmember Grenwald.
Here.
Councilmember Grant.
Present.
All right, so the purpose of this meeting is for discussion for two items, items A and B, which we're going to switch. We're going to take item B first, which is discussion of draft ordinance to allow permitted use in an industrial and commercial zone to a medical recreational marijuana dual license holder and update the town code to conform with state law. Nora.
Okay, so couple of things to start off with. We have a couple of, Trevor and David are on Zoom. They are some developers that would like to come in, and they've helped a lot with this as well. We took what we had, and Christina and I have kind of reworked what it was. We had it zoned to only be in industrial zoning. We, as everybody's pretty well aware of, we don't have a lot of the industrial zoning left in this town. In fact, I don't think we have any that is not already built on. So if you look at page 1 through 4 of the ordinance, that part is just a draft of the ordinance. We really won't go through that, but if you look at Exhibit A, recreational marijuana 2025 updates. This is what we would like to update in our town code and also our zoning code. First off, we went through this, Christina and I went through this whole thing and did what we thought were good updates. I talked to the Jim down in Quartzsite. I also talked to Clay down in Quartzsite, just to see, they have 2 down there, to see how things kind of work and all of those types of, traffic, if it's caused any real major differences. They say it's going pretty smoothly and they don't really see any major differences in crimes or traffic or any of that. The only thing that I would really like, this is done as a dual license, and in talking to several different people that do still own these and have owned these, the dual licenses are not being handed out, and a lot of people don't have them, so I would like to break that up where you can do either or, and it doesn't, you don't have to have both. But take that kind of into a little bit of consideration while we do this. It really would behoove us to break that apart. So on page 5 and 6, that would be my only thing, is to break that dual licensing up. And if you go to Exhibit B, on page 7, that is pretty, this is a pretty standard of what a C2 can be done. That doesn't change at all. 8, there's no changes in that. That also explains some of the things that you need to get a conditional use for, but you can still have them in the C2 zoning district. There would be a small change. These are basically a small change in the 10, 11, 18. You can see that in 27. The biggest thing in that chapter is we took out the medical portion and we put facility and cultivation. That last line, we'd like to take out the word dual and just do a license. Chapter 8 is the industrial zoning. We're not changing anything there. That will stay the same, other than 16, we are putting that in, which would be license subject to the requirements of section 10, 11, 18, and we'll get to that here in just a little bit. Marijuana facility and cultural use of this title. If you go down into chapter 11 on page 10, we've changed the dispensary again to facility. Those are pretty small changes. Page 11, similar to the same, just changing that dual license and also the facility.
That one kind of seems
And then you get down to 7, A and B.
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 9 to 5.
Take all of that out. It gets, by the wording above in just 7, takes care of that whole criminal violation and state and/or federal control substance. So the passing of the recreational. On page 12, if you look under 10B, that is the hours of operation. So in the past, we had it where it was 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Looking at it, we had first thought 9 to 8, Monday through Saturday. And then I pulled state statute, and I also spoke with the 3 gentlemen now. David's up there. David has been here before and spoke to you. In speaking with them and looking at state statute, the state statute gives for a C2, 8 hours, 8 to 10, Monday through Sunday. So you kind of would need to look at, how are you looking at this facility? Are you looking at it as a pharmacy? Are you looking at it as just a regular C2 commercial establishment? Do you want to have more parameters on it? So we'll kind of go through all of this, and then I will ask for lots of questions. And then going down to under C, number 4, well, actually all of them, but those are how many feet that they have to be, that the establishment needs to be away from residential, schools, childcare. And when this first came out as medical marijuana, the state was very strict in those boundaries. Since then, and now that it's gone recreational, they've loosened up a lot on those, and I believe the only one that really still exists is the 500 feet from schools, charters, education facilities, those types of things. Personally, I still would like to see all of these, at least in part. The residential one, we may need to look at and maybe go less feet because of the way that our town, and the way that our town is laid out. Typically, if you go in and you start a brand new town, you're gonna have your residential in the middle, and then you're gonna go your OT, which is light commercial, and then you go your commercial, and then you go on to your industrial. We're kind of all over the place here in town. We have houses sitting on commercial property. We have industrial next to commercial. We have next to industrial, and for that matter. So we're kind of all over. I know the one building that they are looking at is like, there's a house like 480 or 90 feet from there. I don't know that we could get honestly, I don't know that we could get a piece of, maybe we could. I was gonna say, I don't know if there's any properties that are that far away from
A church, a school, or any of that
a
stuff,
church, a
right,
school,
house.
a residential, you know. If we, you know, the residential one is the only one that I'm really kind of pulls at my little brain a bit that, you know, yeah, we might could go less on that one. The rest of them, I would feel very comfortable in staying at the 500 feet. But I do think we still need some kind of boundary between the residential zoning and probably not 500 feet, but I think we do need some. Over on page 13 at the very top, number 2. Excuse me. Is it- Yes, number 2. At the very, very top. Secure storage area for the marijuana stored on-site at the marijuana facility shall not exceed 500 square feet. That's a very small storage area for security reasons. Typically, what they do is they have all their backstock in this very secured area where they have extra cameras, the walls are thicker, it's typically in the middle of the building. They roll in the evenings after closing, they roll all of their stuff in, that displays in that were out, to store those in there because it is that much secure. So I don't know that we need to have that, any number, actually, but if we chose to have a number, I would think that it would need to be bigger, because you're not gonna get much storage in 500 feet, and they're gonna wanna put their safe in that room as well. As you know, this is kind of a cash business right now. So those are kind of some things to think about when we're going back through this here in a little while. Going down to G2, at the very bottom of that paragraph, the lighting must be sufficient brightness to ensure that the interior is readily visible from the exterior of the building from a distance of 100 feet. I'm not sure that we want people from the outside looking in. I know that your business people aren't going to want to light that whole thing up. There's a lot of people that would go in and out that they really don't, for medical reasons or whatever, don't want to be seen from the road. That's not a condition that we put on any other business here in town, I guess. So I would really, I think it's a safety issue more than anything, to me. So we probably want to look at that. And going through this, I really tried to think about this more, is what would we do with a pharmacy? If a new pharmacy came into town, would we put these restrictions on that pharmacy? So that's kind of how I came up with some of this stuff. And then also speaking with the 3 gentlemen that are online, and we'll be able to put some 2 cents into this, and they've been doing this for a very long time. Also, if you go down one more to number 3, not have a drive-through service. I'm kind of on the fence with that. We do have a few drive-throughs here in town. Little Brown Jug, the other little gas station. Our brand-new pharmacy has one. We love it. Just FYI. So that's something to kind of, and in the bigger cities, they do have those drive-throughs. I think there's one in Havasu that has it. I'm not positive with that, but I think. But I know in Phoenix and in the bigger communities, they do. Going on to page 14. You go down to number 14. It provide if it says in here to provide security patrol for a 2-block radius of the neighborhood. That just is, there's more issues with that than I can even count. We have enough. And it does say in here that the town manager at any time can ask for that. We don't have to have it. But I just think it could cause, putting it in the town manager's hand could cause some problems down the road. Somebody gets pissed off, sorry for the words there, but, and then all of a sudden, town manager's making decisions that aren't best for you guys or for the business. I also think if there's an issue that we would want to get PD involved before we sent some security guard around to site things out. It to me has more problems than it would help. Going down to 19, not to store more than $200 in cash overnight on the premise. That tends to cause a little bit of issue with this being a cash business. For the most part, it is. I mean, they do have banks and things that they can use now, where in the beginning, they really couldn't, and that's when this was put in. This is kind of a leftover from that. You really don't want everybody to know that you're taking money out of there, when you're doing it, how you're doing it. It needs to be pretty random, and if you put that $200 limit on there, I think we're gonna run into more problems. They don't want their money gone, and PD doesn't want to have to chase anybody. Again, on page 15, it's just on 21, that very last line, obstruct the view of the interior of the premise viewed from the outside. Kind of want to strike that, going back to where we talked about, putting shades up or tinting the glass or whatever is probably a better idea than illuminating everything out to the road. And that's it. So, questions, comments?
Explain, one of the biggest portions that you talked about was to do the license portion. Can you explain more what that entails? So it looks like that there's have to qualify both for a not-for-profit medical and also a regular, is that correct?
Correct. So they would have to, if we keep the dual, they would have to qualify for the medical license portion and then also the recreational portion. The state is not handing those out any longer, which causes some issues. Is if we want somebody to come here, they already have to, as soon as this went, how do I explain this? As soon as this went larger in the recreational, you can't move medical one. So in that transition time, all the medical and recreational dual kind of guys move to the city, because now they can't move. Now they're there, right? So to get somebody to come to this area, we're not.
So basically, it's removing the medical portion requirement of that.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I feel it's important to not mistake this, but with a pharmacy, if you're looking at it from like a sales tax side of it, just to not limit their income potential for other reasons too. But I had a question about the licensure and the verbiage that talks about cultivation.
I was wondering about
I
that.
thought that this was for like a dispensary, not necessarily the
It is.
cultivation. Because it specified 3,000 square feet for cultivation.
So that was put in there when we did the first round, when we had it before, and we just left it in there. We could take that completely out if we don't want any cultivation at all here. That's on page 13.
Right, yeah, I see that being the issue, like with, if there's a nearby residence or something like that, there's a difference between having like a retail location and then having them cultivating it right next door, because if you've driven through Needles, you're well aware of, you know, what goes along with that, so.
We're looking more of the facility and not necessarily the
Right,
cultivation. So, you know, that would be a good thing to just take out. Again,
yeah,
that
because
was,
then
But if they were south, wouldn't there be room for cultivation out there?
yes. In Parker South, there would be, I mean, there's room in town for that. I don't know that, we want it in town. I don't know that we want it in Parker South. That's just something for you guys to kind of decide.
right.
This can also change the, the 500 feet from residential, you can change that for cultivation.
True, that residential limitation could be increased or applied specifically to the cultivation. That way it kept it limited to something, like the only place they could do it would be Parker South, you know?
Or you could actually spell that out. We have,
You could say 1 mile, then it would be impossible.
you, out in Parker, we do have other zonings out in Parker South than we have in Parker proper, because of where it's at and the size of the land that we have. So you
Right.
could specifically say only in Parker South, or some kind of verbiage, not, I mean, we'd fix that.
Yeah, that would probably be my recommendation, just
Hi,
from my standpoint.
this is David Basila. I'd add some comments onto that if you are interested.
Sure.
The licenses, as the state has given them, allow for multiple rights on different facilities. So each license is allowed a dispensary, which is the retail, a cultivation, a manufacturing, and then there's a nuance on the cultivation. There's an on-site tied to the dispensary, which are typically small, like boutique type of cultivations, limited in size, and then there's separate cultivation facilities, which are typically limited to industrial zoning and more appropriately located for those types of businesses. So there's very few like on-site cultivations, you know, just financially as a business, it doesn't make sense. It's maybe more for marketing and attracting attention than really producing product. And then large cultivations, you know, practically aren't going to probably be located in Parker. I mean, they could be, but just logistics
Right.
and so on probably is, you know, not going to happen. So those are just some of the nuances of how the state has the licenses and how the different jurisdictions have then written ordinances to kind of separate dispensaries and cultivations.
Sure, that may be a guideline for us to lay that out, you know, those restrictions.
Right.
With
Or I would just, you know, for you guys to simplify it for now, I mean, it's obviously up to you. Do this ordinance relative specifically to dispensaries. If you have somebody wanting to come in and spend, you know, $10 million to build a cultivation
Right.
facility and there's some advantage for being there,
Address it then.
you know, create a new ordinance or variance or something that allows something like that to come in. But, you know, I think it's a lot of extra work to add all that without much real kind of opportunity, I guess.
And maybe you're talking about like a boutique cultivation area that might be more localized with that. Maybe we could say any area that has more than 100 square feet of cultivation area has to be located X amount of miles away from a residential compared to the other ones just follow suit.
I mean,
Yeah.
or we could just kind of like he suggested, just scratch the cultivation part. And then if we do end up in a situation someday where somebody wants to cultivate, then we could address it at that point. point.
Yeah,
but-
based on the size limitations of the facility, I wouldn't think you would want to take up room in some boutique cultivation. You would want to,
It
Yeah.
could be just a
Retail.
handful of plants or something with that they're just trying to sell
Sure.
the couple
Yeah.
plants with that.
Yeah, Mayor and council,
do you
sorry to
define
interrupt you, but I did want to just chat really quickly about, so the cultivation, as Nora mentioned, is in the original, provision and ordinance that was adopted for medical marijuana. So I would have to look. I don't know that we can sort of start making changes to that because with the marijuana requirements, sort of once you give, I don't know that we can pull back. So what we can do is I can look in to see what options you have if you're wanting to try to restrict cultivation at this stage, or we can just leave that part of it alone and make sure it can't be expanded for recreational if that's what the concern is.
I think my concern is just cultivation.
the part I don't understand is why do we even have medical when it's recreational is legal? Why do we bother with medical? Right? Anybody
Well,
go in
so-
and buy.
It's a different
so
product
Mayor
at,
and council,
at the
so
end,
I
yeah.
think just it might be helpful. So when the Medical Marijuana Act was first enacted by voters, no one really knew how this was going to play out, right? So everyone was very cautious and very conservative, especially in the ordinances, the model ordinances that were provided, because it gives you more flexibility, right? As things have changed. So medical was it for a very long time until the recreational measure was passed by voters. And then they had that dual licensing, which we do have, but as Nora said, that's now becoming a little bit more restrictive because there's only so many licenses available for dual license. So now we're seeing more obviously the expansion of the recreational. And I think some of the provisions that we had originally for medical, you're right, don't necessarily make sense anymore, right? Because we've had this. It's I would say it's highly regulated in Arizona. And so even just recreational is regulated. So I think a lot of this just goes back to when it was just first enacted. And so certainly you can, I would say, loosen restrictions, right? It's just a matter that if you've already have certain things in place that have allowed for example, cultivation, I don't know that we can pull that back. Again, I don't know, we could possibly allow or restrict, because right now a recreational establishment is not allowed in Parker, right? Only medical. And then this draft was going to allow dual licensing. If you want to proceed with allowing a recreational establishment, certainly we can make those changes. But like I said, you can always expand. It's just, we can't take away.
But you're not sure.
Well, I'll have to look because I didn't know that you'd want to change to that piece of it. So I would want to make sure that you would have authority, obviously, to do that before we'd make those changes.
Right. I'm very much pro a dispensary and having that resource for people here, but I'm not for the cultivation. Not saying that that's what they're going to do, but I just saw the verbiage that there was 3,000 square foot for cultivation. That would cause a problem in town, I think.
Speaking of, go ahead, Z, what
Oh,
you say?
no.
Speaking of being pro, when I think about a business coming here to open up something like this, whether they consider themselves a C2 or a pharmacy, I don't think that we should limit their hours between Monday and Friday, 8 to 5 at all.
Right.
Like, I think if they can only have an allotted hours, maybe Tuesday through Saturday, stay open later, something like that. But I think Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 is they're not gonna make as much money as they possibly could. I do think that we should visit the drive-through. I know it says no right now, but I think that's something we should visit. A lot of people are using like even the picking up their groceries things. If these are people going to get it for medical, if they're having problems with their feet or their knees and they don't want to walk in there and stand, I think that is a good option as well.
Yeah, and basically, I was going to reiterate that point. It's this is a business, so I'm more for deregulating the business restrictions that we have on it. So hours of operations, drive-through, how much cash that they can have, all those suggestions that you made. I'm more in favor of deregulating, telling what they can and cannot do based off of their own business, what drives that. With the drive-through, I do think it has a unique portion with that because, say, if the drive-through is located right at a busy part of town, is it going to be backing up kind of like how Berto's is sometimes and going into the main street and causing a difference. So that's the only concern I have with the drive-through, but of course, with just putting the drive-through over at the retail pharmacy, I'm all for that too, but just wanting to make sure it doesn't impede traffic with that.
Right.
But
I have a lot of negatives about the drive-through, but my thing is you're a couple years away from or past what used to be an illegal drug deal. And
Good wording, Dusty.
people try to circumvent the system all the time. So who's to say who's sitting in the passenger seat is of age? What if it's a car full of kids and mom wants to run by the drive-through and now we're tossing a bag of weed in the back seat with the kids? You know, there's kind of a lot of things, and hate to sound like the radical one or whatever, but that seems crazy to me to allow that.
on the flip side, they're gonna,
Come up to the microphone.
I just want to say, just to throw out the dispensary in Havasu that has a drive-through. Their drive-through is only for they have an online, and it's only for online pickup. So I just want to make you guys aware of that.
You're not
So
going
it's not
up-
like you could just drive up and be like, order from the menu and get what you want. It's for online pickup only. So just let you know.
So kind of like the Safeway or Walmart where you order it and then just pick it up.
You've talked to Jim out in Quartzsite.
Yes.
What about the other end of this? Like, how are they doing on revenue? And you said they're not having any issues.
The revenue, I mean, they see a small uptick, but they're, Quartzites, they have two, and it dies in the summer. So with everybody leaving
The
in the summer.
snowbirds. The stone birds.
Really slow in the summer in Quartzsite. So that's what they're seeing. They do see a pickup in revenue during the wintertime versus summer. Where here, we have the summer crowd and we have the winter crowd, so we used to see very cut and dry when the river people were gonna be here, and then when the snowbirds were gonna be here. That's kind of melded together, and we don't see that hard little time in there anymore. It's kind of, I mean, there's a difference, but it's more steady.
And correct me too, this facility, the one that, if we allowed this, would only be if you had a medical card. It's not recreational is what we're saying?
No, it would
No.
be recreational.
It'd be recreational, okay.
the one or the other is what,
That's what the
Correct.
dual.
or both.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure because if it was just for medical.
Well, we've been over this before in years past, and then the elephant in the room is the fact that we live within the boundaries of a tribal federal reservation, and it's, federal law says no. So I know one of the concerns before was we would get sideways with tribes by allowing such a thing. Has there been any input?
I've talked to one-on-one, several council for the tribe, and surprisingly, I thought I would have more,
Opposition?
yes, than I did. A lot of them are, the few that I spoke to, I'm not gonna say a lot, but the few that I spoke to were, it's legal, and it's probably, feds are probably gonna make it legal as well at some point. What do we say? And one of those came from somebody I really thought was gonna have some,
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns, really.
With that, I think we do what we can do, and we put out the rules with that, and at that point, if another business wants to come in, they're gonna have to abide by all the rules within that. So they're gonna make that own determination for the business coming in.
And I kind of sit in the gray area there too, because I don't want to ruffle any feathers that don't need to be ruffled, especially with such a partnership that we're starting to build with the
Absolutely.
tribes. But then I start thinking of when they're bringing things in, do they have to pass on reservation land, or is tribes going to make that difficult? I think back to where the races, and the tribes didn't want the races here, and that turned into a whole thing. Could that affect them actually bringing the product in, passing on the reservation land?
Yeah, there was talk before, years ago, when we had this conversation about stopping distributors at the border and not letting them in, so, or seizing even.
Well, they're gonna wanna tax it somehow, that's all, that's
That's,
what I
that's
feel.
where,
So what kind of tax are they gonna wanna put on it on top of every other tax that is already applied, you know? That's gonna end up being the conversation probably.
Yeah, you're probably right.
How much money can they make on it?
because that's exactly what turned around the whole races.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot to digest. I'm assuming this is a state thing here. This isn't
Actually,
ours.
that is ours.
It is.
Yes, this is our working copy, so it's all red and
Oh, I see the
blue
red
and
now. Okay.
all the red and blue. This exhibit A and B is a cleaned up version of the red and blue.
So there's
But
no
I wanted
action.
you guys to have,
There's no
there's no
action on
action
this.
tonight, no.
But clearly, there's a move to get action at some point.
At
Yeah.
some point, just a real discussion as to what you guys would like to see, if you want to see it, where, kind of give us a little direction as far as staff goes. And then, once we do that, Christina and I will clean this up, and then we will present it to planning and zoning, because it is a zoning change. So it will need to go to planning and zoning, and then it will come back to you guys with a finished, get their input, and then it'll come back to you guys with a finished product.
All right.
So,
And could we get a little clarification on the cultivation thing also?
at least kind of summarize what I feel like we talked about. I think that we're
Yeah.
in consensus, sounds like going with the single instead of the dual portion with that. I think we do have questions or potentially concerns on the cultivation portion where we're maybe okay with a boutique style, but don't necessarily want to see large areas with that inside the town limit. So if we can somehow limit that, I think that's a want of ours with that. It seems like, at least my personal want is deregulation on what a business can and cannot do with that. So those hours of operations, those lighting fixtures, those other unique regulations on this, the thought is just having that, let a business be a business at that particular point. And then maybe having you do a reassessment of the footage away from a residential facility to see what's a reasonable amount, but still doesn't put something right next door and hurts a potential residential.
Sure.
Yeah, there's only a few places in town realistically where that
Right,
could be
and
done
we
anyway.
know where it ultimately would end up, at least maybe some of us do. Maybe a little bit of info on the drive-through thing. And I just say that because I think if we do push this through, doing it in a way that's gonna be most well-received, is gonna be important, just to limit any of the probably obvious flack that will be had. And I know there's one in Havasu that does drive-throughs, but I'm gonna say that the percentage of drive-through dispensaries is very, very low.
And is there any portion to go along with that? It's just having concerns about the flow of traffic issue with that. I mean, I know you have different concerns about drive-throughs,
Right.
but to me, the traffic flow and impeding
And
the,
that's going to change, sorry to interrupt you, but that will change depending on where that's located. So if we have it, down the street on California, that may impact that traffic much more than if we have it on Riverside, where
There's a flow
there's
already.
a flow already there. So that's the other thing you have to look at when you're doing these planning things and trying to do these ordinances, what's going to be the most restrictive,
Yeah, and-
kind of hit that point.
and I'm not sure if we can say that the drive-through has to be with that it doesn't impede traffic or having some sort of verbiage with that.
I think we could. I think we can.
To help my concerns, but of course, different concerns on
No,
that
and
standpoint.
that's a valid concern too, because I know that the one at Prime Leaf in Blythe, on any given Friday, you can drive on the freeway and you can see the line from Albertsons all the way around to behind the building. And I mean, could you imagine if they had a drive-through, what that parking lot would look like, and we will have that same influx of people. So that's to be anticipated for sure.
Is there any ADOT restrictions with dispensaries in there? Because it's their right away right
I don't think so, but I don't know that for sure.
Any sort of restrictions in regards to this.
That's worth looking at too.
I
Jeff.
will,
Obviously, traffic in, come out.
Try to
is
eliminate
affecting
any
ADOT's.
road bumps.
Do you feel like that was an adequate summary, or is there any other particular questions that you had for us?
no, I'll check into the ADOT thing, because I know that we make them, any business that comes into town, they have to get an okay from ADOT, an actual permit from ADOT to do the entrance and exit, unless it's already there.
And there's nothing with the railroad to consider. Okay.
No, sir. Okay, I think I've got it. You guys are good?
Yeah, I want to talk to some people. I got some
I
people
have
I
some
want
other info too.
specific that I want to talk to, so. All right, anything else, anybody on this? All right, thanks for joining us, guys, online. Thank you.
Guys?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our next item is the Parker Regional Chamber of Commerce and Tourism lease discussion. Nora?
So, a few weeks ago, I had several ladies from the chamber come in. They are from the chamber board and wanted to speak about the property behind Spanky's. They are interested in that again, now that it's back out on the market. We got no response from our little letter that we sent. We have not gotten back from them the assigned copy of the lease for the other piece of property on California that we did several months ago for them. But they are now
Hang on, which property?
up on, between the,
By the ice house and all
by
that?
the ice house and the,
I mean, ironically, this thing we were talking about with traffic into this establishment is my same concern with that property. I was really excited at first because there was no other options, it seemed
Right.
like, but I'm imagining motorhomes trying to get in and out of there on 95.
Have to make a real creative
Um,
entrance
kind
or
of in
something.
and
Yeah,
out.
I think it would be
Would-
super tricky.
And they would definitely have to get ADOT's approval on that because there's nothing built.
So I love the idea of the behind Spanky's idea,
I'm just here to hear what you guys is just,
but I want to
kinda
hear what
seen.
they all think
And then
too.
we've got,
so.
I was gonna say, and then we have a good portion of the board here to kind of give you their ideas and
Anybody want to
wants.
jump in here?
There is a few of them on the board that would like it in the park as
Louis too,
well.
right? Yeah, go, step up, please, Tammy. Oh, Louis here for the invocation. We're discussing the lease
on two hats.
of property potential.
Okay, they're trying to figure it out here.
So my name's Chana Marshall, and I'm a VP of Finance at the Chamber. And this is my co-VP of Finance.
I'm gonna stand back here because I don't like to talk on.
So we originally visited those lots behind Spanky's prior to them being released by the gentleman that had it. And that was a choice of ours, other than being in the park, which I'm not sure that's a doable thing on your end. But that would be their number one choice, according to other members of the board. But we are interested in, if that's not doable, we are definitely interested in the lots behind Spanky's. But we were told that it needed to go out to bid again, if that was what was going to happen. Is that
does.
correct?
Oh, really?
Yes, it has to go out to bid, just like we did before. Now, we say that, we advertise in the paper. They put in their kind of want as far as the bid goes.
What's the bid specifically? The price?
Ms.
So
Christi-
mayor and council, so this would be, if it's a sale, even if it's a lease purchase, it's a sale of town property. So state law requires that you have to put that for bid, and it's essentially the highest price, right? Unless there's a reason, like a valid reason why you wouldn't want the highest price. But that typically is what you would take.
I mean, obviously, what, $1,000 a year, I think was in,
Well, this was a little different because the way this thing worked is previously, the properties were valued at 220,000, I believe, the lots. So I didn't realize they had bidded on that lot.
Yes.
But they bidded 22,000 apparently.
Correct.
Or they agreed to pay 10% down
And 10%.
and then a yearly lease, which I would assume would be similar that we would do with the chamber, is they would put a bid as a down payment, sort of. And then we would agree to lease it for a certain amount of money a year. To me, a nominal amount of money a year. But just curious, the last time this happened, did anyone else bid?
No.
Yeah, I figured that wouldn't be a thing, so. But it's 22,000, or it's 220,000 per lot, and are we talking about two lots?
No.
No,
It's per parcel.
per parcel.
And there's 2 lots on the
Oh, okay.
parcel.
So you would only want the one parcel?
And they are only wanting
Oh,
one
I thought the cost was 110 per lot,
per lot.
220 for
220
both
for
of
the
them.
whole- Yeah. there you
220
go.
for both of
There you
them.
go. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
So if I can ask, what do you guys plan on building?
We'd like to move our chamber to a building.
Well, I mean, I know, but like, what,
So-
is it a modular, a stick-built place? Like what,
So,
that's the big concern when we talk about the park. And even the limited retail properties that we have here is, whatever does end up somewhere like that, in my opinion, should be something that's well thought out and I guess up to a certain standard in terms of like construction and
right, and
longevity
we've talked
and-
about that with the board too. And our goal, in my opinion, this is just my own opinion and I'll put it out there, is that I would like to see us hire an architect and have a architecturally appealing building, be it, I don't know if it's going to be, metal construction but it wouldn't be, it's not going to be a box.
Right, I worry
It's
about
going to
like
be
an
an
MBD
architecturally
building or
designed
something,
building
you know?
that makes sense, and hopefully multiple use, so that not only would it house our offices, but we're hoping to house the museum in there as well, and perhaps have additional space for maybe transient businesses that need an office to come in and use the facility, copier, whatever,
I
try to
think the
make it
old
more
chamber
business friendly.
Is a good, I mean, that was a nice looking building.
Yes.
It wasn't always. There was a trailer there at one point.
I
but-
remember that.
But I saw it today and they painted it and it looks really nice. It's a good building. So I think they want to draw people in, so they don't want to
Yeah.
have something
Yeah. Yeah,
cheap.
we'd like
but-
to set a standard,
Yeah.
not be the standard.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying that you guys would go throw a trailer on there or something, but that's just based on past experiences and some of the other places around here. I don't know what your funding looks like, and I know new construction and architects and stuff are very expensive, so.
It may take us a while to get it done, but but when we do that, we're going to do it
gonna do it right.
right.
And the
That's
thing
our goal.
about the park lot, it became complicated because of the give and take. We're supposed to get back commensurate in what we give. That became complicated as far as the park. Where this lot there's a price on it. You pay the price. There was a lot of people that were against it, very much against it. So I took that seriously and just said, I don't want to do the park anymore. I don't speak for everybody here. I know Erica's trying to stay out of it, which she probably should. But there's, 5 other people up here. If that's an option that you guys want to discuss, that ideal of putting them in the park over there again, that's not, it's
Tammy's
not off the
passionate about the
table, but
park, if you want her view.
it was for me.
Does
but-
it have to be in that front?
No, it
corner,
doesn't have to be
like-
in that front. It really does not. But
So-
the point of being in the park is if we take the museum with us, there was already that road where people could pull their big rigs in and then go ahead and exit, either going either way. We would not tie up any traffic. The reason that I thought that the front part would be good is it's never been fenced. People don't want their kids up there. The only thing that is there are the transients sleeping underneath your tree. And the dogs.
Oh, you're talking about the corner right across from USA Gas.
But I'm not opposed going further down.
That's what I'm thinking is the dirt lot where the big
I'm gonna talk.
pile of dirt and asphalt used to be. I mean, I know it's not on the main road, but access would
But
be great.
here, the reason that I didn't think that was great, Dusty, is because I thought eventually, when I think of parks,
Yeah,
maybe
ball
the
field.
town would abandon that road
Expand.
and put in another park,
Plus-
another ball field.
If I may, that would be around the same logistically as it would behind Spanky's.
But the problem I have
No.
with Spanky's
Yeah,
is
same
those,
drive.
that can generate a lot of sales tax depending on the right business, correct?
I see that side of it.
Well, yeah, but yet somebody leased it for years and we never got any sales tax out of it. And the other proposal that came to us for that place wasn't something anybody was interested in last year. I know some of you guys weren't on here, but, you know, a tiny home community with a laundromat and,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, so I'm more completely in favor of your thought process is being able to have a building over there to fence off the road so the kids don't get over there. So that's where I always was a fan of that idea. Even saying having a, you know, brick wall going down to prevent, say, kids from going into the road right, that being on the major road is where I always like that particular idea.
a wall where now, are you saying?
Just over to fence off the, if it was, the chamber building was over at that front corner
Right.
near Riverside with that and say just a wall going all the way down to prevent kids from going from the grass area over into the street to further help that point. So that's always been my favorite idea with that as well. Now, I guess, and you guys probably have earlier discussions about, I'm not sure the legality of having a park or area designated as a park to be able to go for a property like that.
I think that part was okay. It was the, you know, it used to be we could spend money and we could help somebody like the chamber and say, let's give you this property. And now the law is such that, you know, and Christina will tell you that, because we've had a lot of discussions with Christina about, you know, how can we make this work for the chamber to ease the burden of the cost. And there was so much, you know, you have to do this dollar for dollar stuff, and that lot over there kind of takes that out of the equation, because you're paying a price, the same guy that guy theoretically paid that was leasing it earlier. So there's no real give and take in that situation, you know.
But I had thought about that too, Randy, and the only thing that I could come up with would be, okay, the chamber builds a building. And it would be something like what we had with the railroad, but the caveat is, if something happens to the chamber or there is no more chamber, or if there's still coffers for the chamber, but we're just relocating or whatever, you guys would go ahead and pay fair market value for the building and keep it,
If it was in the park.
if it was in the park.
See, and I would think we would just get the building.
The reason that I like the park is because, you know, we do have a little bit of money.
Yeah,
And that would enable us, me and Shauna talked about it, we want a nice building.
Yeah.
We don't just want to put a modular up. We
Sure.
want something that's going to be very nice, that can accommodate us, that can accommodate Corey, and and we can bring Deanna's museum right on over.
sure.
Yeah, and I'm more concerned with the construction of the building than the location personally.
But we want it.
So
We really
I just
would
want
like to
something
do
nice.
something that is not just good for the chamber, because we figure if it's good for the chamber, ultimately, it's gonna be good for the town and good for the parts of the county that are, you know, in this area. And so, yeah, we would really want to build a building that would be not extravagant, you know, but nice and attractive and functional, so that people could use the meeting room for their meetings if they don't have a place to meet, you know. So we wanna be a kind of a service center too for the businesses in the community that could come and use our facilities if they needed them until they, you know, couldn't stand on their own.
Yeah. So my question is, because we have all these ideas, would it be appropriate to maybe have a couple people and a couple of our people try to get together and figure this out?
Yeah, I think
Is that
so.
appropriate?
But I would want to include the people who were opposed to the ideal of the park to hear their thoughts.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the Park and Recs committee people, So I know there's a lot of crossover.
Yeah. So I will be the devil's advocate because I will say that I was the Parks and Rec, part of one of the Parks and Rec. I don't want it in the park, but I love the chamber. I've been on the chamber for several years. And like Dusty had said, I've driven around that block probably 6 times in the last month trying to figure out like what would be the best. And I really do personally like the back lot where they've just leveled it all out with the dirt and everything. I think that it wouldn't take away from the park itself. It would still be, and again, this is my opinion, not speaking for anybody up here. But one of the things that we also wanted to kind of incorporate in our building is storage. Right now, currently, the chamber pays for 2, maybe even 3 different storages throughout town. So we did want to have an area that was big enough to consolidate all of our storages, which would make it, cheaper for us, not having to pay storages. Kind of an outside area in my mind. So when I was driving around the park, I've noticed it's all flattened out. There's grass to a certain extent, and then it goes dirt. And I was like, we could almost fill the whole block with something, whether it be parking lot for the chamber, maybe even add a different ramada out there, another gazebo type thing to kind of make that whole park usable. And so I do like the idea of being up front as far as visible and focal, like you see it, it's right there. But I mean, being in the building, you're gonna get, I feel like a lot of traffic that maybe wouldn't want to be warranted or, I can't imagine a block wall being up on there,
I'm trying to picture that.
that just breaks my whole heart because I feel like that green grass is just such a beauty when you walk in and all of the events and stuff. But like we said, we all have different ideas. We all have something that if we could sit down and just maybe say, what are the options? If it was something like you said, we do have a good amount of money that we have, grants and stuff like that we do want to build a beautiful building. We're not going to put a manufactured home up. Lots of stuff that we want to do. I don't know if the front part would give us enough space to do all of that, if that was the case, so.
It almost sounds like we should have a big gathering and just go over there. Maybe walk all those lots, take a look together. We did that at one point.
We did.
But it was just me and chamber, basically. There wasn't a lot of people involved. Other parties, like, other council people. So if we went over there and just did a walk around, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, so my concerns with the park is you have a blank canvas at Western Park. So my plans actually for that park is to have a feasibility study similar to what we did at the city park. You could incorporate, in that feasibility, putting the chamber there. Would be dead set against anything behind Aaron Hill Field. I've already measured out, so there's enough room for a softball field, girls softball field, and a skate rink back there. So, like I said, the park is a blank canvas. If I was to go in one direction, I would prefer it up towards Riverside Drive. And whether that would be similar to a building type that you just moved out of at the chamber, attractive building, but the parking, adjusting the parking might take up a little bit of the park area to make it feasible. But a feasibility needs to be done. You have the opportunity to make that park another shining star, just like Pop Hardy. But until that's done, just kind of willy-nilly going about this is the wrong way to go. So you get an architect involved, you do the feasibility, and you put ideas on possibilities of how this could all look and all work together. It could work.
I think the good news is we're not in a rush at this point. You guys are in a place, it's okay for now.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not great, but
The idea of them being able to invest back into the park is nice too, because like you said, and I heard what you said, makes absolute sense, but if they were to end up in the dirt lot, and let's say they had the budget to landscape a good part of that acreage there to kind of expand the park, plant some trees and stuff, that would be a benefit too. So it's just another thing to consider, I guess.
Now, That lot that's behind Spanky's that you're talking about, with that, say if it is out for bid and they're the only bidders with that, can it go severely below market? And that be okay if they're the only bidders and we accept that?
Depends on how we word the bid. So the way we did it prior was, we started the bid at 110 per lot or 220 per, per parcel. And then we negotiated the,
Can we not set a minimum price and just say that this is, we're open for all bids and
no,
we'll
we
assess
have
it
to,
for that?
we have to set.
Christina's getting squirrely
No.
up there.
I'm like, no, you have to set a
So
price.
who comes up with
It has
market
to be
value? I
fair
mean,
market value.
so
It has to
if,
be. This is taxpayer funds.
so if they're the only ones who bid, you know, who comes up with that fair market? Who says 110 is fair market?
It had to be a
I
third
think an
party.
appraiser,
The appraiser does.
Third party.
and I don't, 110's not unreasonable to me. And I think it's a high enough, because the danger is if you go, you know what, we're gonna start the bidding at 10,000, you might get 10 bids right off, you know, people, because you have to publicize it, you have to make it, you can't do it underhanded, so you may end up getting somebody bidding on it that you don't really want there, you
And
know?
we don't have to accept any bids if we don't want them over there as well, and we
Yeah,
don't
but
find
you
that.
gotta be careful, I mean, you know. But,
I think what would help probably everybody also is if you guys had some kind of plan or a visual on what the building was, like how many square feet do you need? Things like that, you know, so that when we went and looked at a dirt lot, you weren't
Yeah.
just going, yeah, it would look nice. You've actually got some
or
numbers to
that,
be like,
that corner of the park right there, if we could actually walk it off and go, okay, 50 feet this way, 100, you know, so you could really visualize it, and like Steve said, or get some plans drawn up that
Yeah.
shows how much of a footprint it would
yeah,
take.
footprint would probably be the same on either property, and it's something you guys
Yeah.
would have to do either way, so.
I like Steve's plan, doing a feasibility study and actually figuring out what we can do with that, with Western Park, including the chamber. I really don't think purchasing a piece of land is, that we can benefit from would be something great. So I'm personally for Western Park and getting a feasibility study done and figuring it
The
out.
only issue with that is, you know, when we did the feasibility for City Park, I mean, we spent $250,000 on that thing,
Those can kind of end up
which
being
was a
just
grand
pipe
scheme,
dream, you
and
know what I
I'm
mean?
thinking it won't be that big, but there is gonna be a cost involved.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's not cheap.
Right, the feasibility was expensive for City Park, and it was based off of the size of the park.
So maybe it'll be a lot less with,
It would definitely be less. But that gives you a blueprint for not only for the chamber, if you decide to do this, but what other amenities can we put at the park? And that's what this community needs, is more amenities at the parks, so the kids and families can go use these parks. And we're going through that process. City Park is a whole nother ballgame, considering obviously the issues
Right.
that we have with the lease, the grit, the whole thing, and the expense of it. But at the end of the day, that's a town-owned property. So you do have the ability to do a lot with it if you want to, or a little. It really doesn't, it's really up to the council, but that's a good starting point to get a plan together, and then you work towards that goal of achieving that plan if you decide to go in that direction.
And Mayor and
kinda like
Council,
the
just
obvious
so that
route.
another, I guess, so just kind of keep in the back of your mind. So parks are designated as public land districts, which are only supposed to be used for the public. So we'll have to look at a code change as well if you're going to be changing the nature of that district essentially. Because right now this would be prohibited under the code.
but we have the ability to change the code.
Yes, you should. But I'll just make sure just that there's no state law that you adopted, and that's why that's in the code. But if there's no state law prohibition, you should be able to change the code.
Just
Okay.
another funding question really fast. Say if, again, going back to Spanky's with it, I know that we typically fund the chamber X amount of dollars per year with that. and they give us appropriate amount of services back to us. Can we say reduce some of those per year and basically just say rent over, that 70 years, and we just rent it out to them? And basically reduce their annual contribution, or they come up with
I don't know
different
if
ways
that's
of.
even involved in that lot, because they're paying fair market.
Well, I'm
Same as
saying
that
instead of-
guy, we don't have to do a tit for
I'm
tat.
saying if they
with 'em.
don't purchase and it's more just rent with that, so.
We would purchase.
I think their funding is the point where they could,
Yes, we would just
so
purchase.
that would take
We
all that
wouldn't-
off the table, and we could still continue to give them our contribution in exchange for the services they offer. Yeah. But that might all change at the park, possibly, I don't know how that would work.
So ultimately, I think we probably need to have some kind of study done, whatever scale of feasibility study. I mean, it's got to get done either way, and without it, we're just assuming that things will work. I
Is
guess.
there such a thing as getting a quote for a study before you actually pay for the study?
Yeah. How many millions?
Previous feasibilities that we've done, it's all budgeted. I get a proposal, and obviously council, you review budgets and approve budgets, so it's based off of a proposal.
Because, I mean, you guys might be in better financial shape than we are at this point. That's the only reason I'm throwing that out, because.
You got an awesome finance committee.
I think it's also curious just to know the scape of like what kind of building you want and see where we can fit that too. Like, so.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was saying when we were talking about the front of the park. If we really wanted to utilize everything that we needed, I have walked the park, I have looked at dimensions, and I just don't think it would be
Wouldn't fit.
big enough. I think it would take up too much of the park
Yeah.
that we wouldn't necessarily want to.
So you guys obviously have different opinions.
But we do,
As
absolutely,
a
and that's-
board, generally, are you really stuck on that lot or stuck on the other lot, or it's just everybody's got their own thing? Sounds like,
My reading, this is my opinion, is that I think we've got people for both, but I think that if it came right down to it, we'd rather have one of those park lots than anything else. At least that's how I feel. Or anything else we put there.
the behind Spanky's or the park.
Yeah.
No, I agree. This one is kind of off the table for me, this California thing at this point. It was good when we were desperately in need of a place, but it's not ideal. And the most unideal part of it is the traffic, in my opinion. I can just seeing rigs trying to get out of there onto the boulevard.
I think we'd be much better service to the town if we were someplace else.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like he said, we have differing opinions on the board, but we kind of wanted to just come back and bring it back to council's attention, because we feel like it didn't get, I don't know what to say, it didn't get enough attention. We kind of just like, maybe we should bring it back to you guys about bringing it back to the park and maybe put that idea back in your heads.
I just think the simplest route and the least painful, the most legally sound route is to go with those lease lots on the other side, and then we don't have to change town code, we don't have to, I mean, if that's a viable option for you guys, and it's not like, oh, we had to be in the park, then I would lean towards that myself, but I just think it would be, we could keep things like they are, you guys could lease them, just like the other guy did.
I just wanted to throw out the possibility, maybe we could do a lease purchase to where maybe we would do a lease for a little while. That way we could use our money to help us get our architect and build our building. And then at a certain point in time, we could buy out the
Are you referring to the lots behind Spanky's?
lots behind Spanky's.
Yeah, I think that's already a
That-
mechanism, is that,
Okay.
that was offered.
That would,
Basically, you put that down payment of the bid or whatever it is, and then whatever the balance is, if you pay $1,000 a year, if that's what we agree to, yeah, there could be a point where in the
we
future,
could-
you go, we're just gonna pay this thing off. Like the chamber did with the railroad.
there,
The same
yeah.
thing, yeah.
We just don't want to be stuck in the same situation that we're at right now, whereas,
Yeah.
it's 30 years later and then
Sure.
You lose your building.
yanked out from underneath us and.
Yeah, and that building, because it's on land that you are leasing, you're right, if you guys left that, and I'm sure we could work out an agreement where we would have to pay fair market value, or you would sell it to somebody else that would want the building, and they'd leave us out of it, so, yeah. I mean, it's only work session. We don't have any action on this, so it sounds like we've got it somewhat narrowed down, at least.
Thank you. We'll do a little bit of homework on sizes and.
Yeah, I agree with Dusty. Figure out what you're looking at, the size of the building, and then we can talk about feasibility. Well, we wouldn't have to do that over there. That's not even something we'd have to worry about. So, because the feasibility study is great, the one we did on City Park, it's beautiful, but we don't have the money. And now we got the sewer thing going on, so we really don't have the money. So it's a great thing to have. It's done if we ever get the funding to take off with it. But we wouldn't have to worry about that if it's just that lot over there. And it's more legally yours than ours, where the park would be an entanglement, perhaps, so. All right, anything else, anybody? All right, thanks, guys. So Louis, you're gonna stick around for a minute, right? Okay. All right, we're going to adjourn the work session and call the regular meeting to order. And we'll do another roll call of council.
Mayor Hartless,
Here.
Vice Mayor Woodell,
Here.
Councilmember Shantz,
Here.
Councilmember Daniels,
Present.
Councilmember De Leon, absent, Councilmember Grenwald,
Here.
Councilmember Jing.
All right, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for Louis' invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to gather together. We pray you'll bless our leaders as they look at how to make the town of Parker a stronger, better place to live. Help us have open minds and creative thoughts about the issues we face, and we pray you would guide and direct us to the right decisions that will be a blessing to everyone that lives in this area. And we ask this in Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, now is our time for call to the public. Chief Chamberlain from Buckskin Parker Fire.
Good evening, council, constituents, and staff. Just real quick, I come to you tonight, kind of 3 points. One is from a frustration standpoint, one is an educational standpoint, and one is hopefully for a collaboration standpoint. I've heard some negative connotation coming back about the fire district recently, and it was in particular about the downtown experience and our attempt to, I guess it would be recover the costs, the operational costs that were directly related to the event. From the educational piece, most people don't realize that the fire district is 100% tax-based funded. We receive no sales tax. It's grant funded or property tax based. So when you look at that whole downtown experience, we basically subsidized millions of dollars worth of toys and toy haulers and people coming in. We ran some additional calls. We had an uptick in staffing that I requested. I was invited to one meeting at the 11th hour, was not involved in any of the race activities either, before that. So that was kind of the frustration aspect of it for me. When I asked for the original dollar amount, I came up with what I felt was a very reasonable amount. The fire district chipped in half of a staff member for the 4 operational days. And we asked the vendor, who was a for-profit company, to in fact offset a small portion for 2 additional personnel. I didn't ask them to eat anything more than an hourly figure. A very nominal fee, wasn't a big deal. Received immediate pushback from multiple members of commerce within the town. You're gonna drive this out of town, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. Okay, not wanting that to be ruined, I took a look at it, drilled it back down, took a bigger chop on behalf of the fire district, further augmenting the event, and still took heat. To date, I billed literally $0, not 1 penny. I want to put it a little bit further than that. I actually have pictures of your vendors stealing electricity from the fire station. So when I hear negative connotation coming back at us about how we're billing for stuff or we're not cooperating, et cetera, I kind of take that to heart because it's frustrating. So what I'm asking from you is a collaborative effort. If you hear that, by all means, please put a stop to it. I know it's out there. I know there's some chamber members that have discussed it. I know that I've gotten pushback from it. My staff reported back to me, and it's disheartening because just last Sunday, my staff at Parker arranged an Easter egg thing. Easter egg, there was 1,000 eggs donated. Think that through. What's it cost eggs right now? I mean, that's probably $1,200 just on that. Zero cost to the public. 200 kids came in, got free Easter baskets. We're gonna give 65 baskets to ELA tomorrow. We did the Santa thing. We have hot chocolate stuff. We do a lot of benevolent stuff for the community. We're about to do the water day for the school, different things like that. So what I'm asking for you in return for all of those activities that we do, that we don't get recognition for, is please just refer those people to me. If they have a question or you hear something like that happening, by all means, please just kick them my direction. My phone is on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'll leave business cards here. Nora can tell you I'm immediately responsive. Kofa, she called me. I was on it the next day. Your La Paz Pharmacy, the drive-through thing. They called me. They've been waiting 3 months for the state inspection. We were in oversight. They called me, cleared the schedule, was there the next day. I am being as absolutely responsive as humanly possible to the town and their needs. Please do not let us get beat down on the back end of this. It's not fair. Randy can tell you I'm working collaboratively with the college. I can't fight the wind. I need people to actually help me stand up and defend that. So thank you for your time. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. All right. Let's see, our first item, I'm sorry. Erica Daniels, Parker Regional Chamber of Commerce Director with a report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Erica Daniels with the Parker Regional Chamber of Commerce and Tourism. This Thursday, the Parker Chamber of Commerce and Tourism will host our monthly mixer at Pirates Den starting at 5:30. We are still accepting door prize donations, and we encourage people that attend to bring plastic Easter eggs so that we can donate them to the town of Parker Parks and Rec for their Easter extravaganza. On Friday, April 18th, CRRCS will host their Sexual Assault Awareness Walk starting at Pop Harvey Park at the Splash Pad. Registration opens at 5:30 and the walk will start at 6. Then on Saturday, April 19th, the town of Parker's Park and Rec will host their Easter extravaganza, kicks off at 10 a.m. at the Western Park. And the chamber will actually be running the concession stand with a refreshing lemonade. So stop by, grab some lemonade, and enjoy the festivities. To close out the month, CRRCS will be leading the Denim Day on April 30th. We encourage everyone to wear denim to stand in solidarity with victims and survivors of sexual assault. In exciting news, we have over 700 people that have already registered for the Parker Tube Float. Help us spread the word and encourage others to pre-register at parkerfund.com. And finally, last but not least, save the date. For Monday, May 5th, which is Cinco de Mayo, we're launching our first ever Cinco de Mayo Chamber Chingo in partnership with the VFW Post 7061. We're celebrating big, so be sure to be there. You can purchase your tickets in advance at the chamber office. Let's keep the community energy going, shop local, support local, and celebrate together.
Thank you, thank you.
I like that closing.
You take your hat off, put your other hat on. Okay, our next item is consent agenda. We can approve the two items together, the Town of Parker meeting minutes, April 1st, 2025, and a special event application for Parker High School Annual Graduation Parade, May 23rd, 2025, 5:30 to 7:30. Anybody want to pull any of this and discuss, or are we okay? If we're okay, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as listed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Discussion possible action to approve, deny invitation for bids for the library Xeriscape with a grant project. Steve?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Long time no see. It's been a minute.
I'm sure you've missed me.
We did, sure did.
Public Works Department respectfully requests the mayor and council to authorize staff to publish the invitation for bids for the library Zeroscape project funded by WIFA grant agreement WC 3-109-2024. On January 2nd, 2024, staff received the fully executed WIFA grant agreement for 3 projects totaling $1,230,783.63. This was one of the approved projects. The grant will pay for $923,087.72 of the grant match amount, and the town was required to pay $307,695.91 for all 3 projects. The Zeroscape Library project will save approximately 2.8 million gallons of water annually. This project goal is to implement a Zeroscape design to minimize water usage, create a handicap-accessible trail that will be used by the library to educate the public about the importance of water conservation, enhance the aesthetic appeal of the area, utilize water retention techniques in the design, promote awareness about sustainable landscaping practices, lower maintenance costs, enhance biodiversity, educational opportunities for the community. The IFB will be published May 7th, 2025 on the town website and the online bid site, pipelinesuite.com, as well as being published in the Havasu Herald and Parker Pioneer. There is a pre-bid conference scheduled for May 27th, 2025 at 10 a.m., and the bid opening is scheduled for June 12th, 2025 at 10 a.m. The fiscal impact, as I mentioned, the grant match amount of $307,695 has already been satisfied by the town of Parker. So all the, in addition, staff has 2 pending reimbursements. One actually we've received. We are still pending the reimbursement from WIFA for the $733,000 artificial turf project. So we have a balance of $152,533 for this particular project.
And the 3 projects were the Aaron Hill Field, the library, and,
The meter project.
okay, got it. I mean, this looks great out front here, by the way.
Yeah, so.
This is what we're looking at.
Yeah, so it's going to be similar to that. It incorporates the whole front of the library and all these sections around as well.
Looks like it's ready to go.
It is ready to go. It won't impact the library's garden area, so that's not included in this project, but everything else pretty much is.
The side of the pump house closest to Mojave, that is touched or no? Or not the pump house, the tanks?
No, so it'll go as far as the fence line to Mojave, yes.
Okay, where those oleanders used to be and
Correct.
stuff? Gotcha.
Yes, so all that will be included, yes.
Cool.
All right, sounds like a no-brain. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Move to second. Any discussion, questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Marion Schatz? She must be on a potty break.
She's getting her award.
Motion carries.
Thank you,
Item
Mayor and
2.
Council.
Thanks, Steve. Discussion and action to approve, deny the recommendation of Park and Recs Advisory Board to fill the vacant seat and appoint 2 alternate members. Amy's not here.
So to move the council to approve the recommendation of the Park and Recs Advisory Board to fill the vacant seat and to appoint 2 alternate members at their April 8th, 2025 Advisory Board meeting. Members discussed the applications. A motion was made to approve recommendation to the council to appoint Zachary Calm to the vacant seat and to appoint Katrina and Kathleen as the alternate members. All members of the advisory board were in favor of this recommendation.
Zach Call, huh? Are you still on the Park and Rec? Am I? Yeah.
Yes.
On the library board.
Zach's a go-getter, man. He's really great. I just think he'll be fantastic.
I will say, as being the liaison and being there when Parks and Rec discussed this, they did speak about these alternates because all three applicants were so good, so involved in the community, involved with the kids. They all sat on different boards. We weren't sure if there was any alternates before, but that's why I suggested that there's 2 alternates because there was such a good representation in the applicants.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Are we within our rights to appoint alternate members? Yeah, okay. And what's the other, who'd you say, Katrina?
Karina,
Oh, Karina.
that's a,
Oh, Karina Santillan.
yeah. And then Kathleen, better known as Katie, so,
Right. Cat Torres.
or Kat, sorry, better known as Kat.
Make a new name for her, it's okay.
All right.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Second.
So moved and seconded to approve Zach Calm as fill the vacant seat on Park and Recs, and Cat Torres and Karina Santillan as alternate members. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Item 3, discussion action to approve deny summer rec program. Nora?
The summer rec program has been, was paused for several years due to COVID and staffing issues, but was restarted last year with Aaron Romo as the lead program director. The program ran for about 15 days. They were half days, split into 2 sessions with approximately 30 kids attending each session. The Park and Recs Committee met on April 8th to discuss the following. The teacher's salary. It was noted that reducing the hours last year brought the pay up to a comparable rate to the summer school teachers. Location, last year they used they had to have 2 alternate locations because they were going to redo the floor in the Blake. It ended up that they didn't have to use that second one. They did a water week and outdoor.
Yeah, they went to the college for a few days.
It was also discussed in there that possibly charging a fee of $5 a day, but that was met with some big concerns with some of the other members due to nobody else really charges for their summer program. The number of attendees, the teacher to student ratio was discussed, and we need to get this started if this is what you guys are going to do, because that was a lot for Erin to do on her own. They talked about getting the S Club involved, maybe the couple of the other summer workers involved as well. The committee voted to continue the program this year. However, due to financial concerns, the town has been hesitant to move forward. While the program was successful, it was a significant expense in terms of money, staff time, and resources. If approved, we'll need to move quickly to get the schedule and additional meetings and open applications for the summer program. Last year, the program cost the town approximately $5,394, excluding staff time and additional insurance that we had to pay. If the program continues this year, we can expect similar costs.
Didn't we just have to name the school district as additional insured? We had to actually get a policy?
We did have to add to our policy last year.
Was it like a rider?
Mhm. I have many concerns about us doing this. It's a lot of money for a very short period of time. I know our kids don't have a ton of stuff to do during the summer. However, we're struggling as a community and as a town right now, and I think adding this to it is, a little bit strenuous on our budget.
When was the program held last year?
They did, I believe, 2 weeks in June and 2 weeks in July. there was a period in the 1st of July that there was only like a 4-day week, I think. Well, they only did it on Mondays through Thursday anyway, and then that week of 4th of July, I think they took that.
It was like 8 to 11 or 9 to 11. It was a short.
It was a very short day.
How many kids?
There was 30 kids per session, and we ran 2 sessions. So we ran 2 weeks in June and then 2 weeks in July.
So were any of those kids that were in the first 2 weeks in the same?
Yes.
So we possibly only had,
I don't.
It's usually the same
Yeah.
handful of people. Hate to take anything away from the kids, though.
Totally agree. I would hate to see this go. I'm 1000% for a summer program. If we do have to charge the kids a very, very minimal amount, and then we were talking about, and I know that Parks and Rec would love to like even sit down at a work session like yesterday, if we needed to discuss how we could get different clubs involved with the high school to maybe help, because it was 30 kids was a lot for Aaron to take on. And if we start moving today, contacting Crit so we can get those summer workers locked in. I know last year was kind of slow, so we didn't get the summer worker in time, so it was Erin doing this all by herself. But if we had a teacher that wanted to, because we would have to go back out for a teacher this year. I know that Erin is not, she's not able to do it this year. So we'd have to go back out for a teacher that was interested in doing this. We could reach out to the S Club and they could help the first week. Maybe the FFA Club, they could help the second week or something of that sort. But really getting, if we're gonna charge a fee, I would love not to, like. We can't. Oh, we can't.
Yeah, and even if you charge kids $5 a kid, it's only $150 you're bringing in, so.
And in my experience, when you charge kids for those
Don't
camps,
already have posted.
Oh. We cannot charge fees because they're not posted. So
gotcha.
there's that.
So when you charge the kids for stuff, it comes with a whole nother set of expectations. Like
Right.
everything better be on, or you're gonna hear from everybody that they paid $5.
so does this person who leads this have to be a teacher? Because I know a lot of teachers have already guaranteed their
Well, I
summers
think
away.
the good side of that is they have a fingerprint clearance
Yeah.
card.
And
they're used to working with large
Yeah,
groups
yeah.
of kids, so it makes sense to, we've always done that.
Well,
I
I
know-
wanted
Absolutely.
Johnny, but.
Well, is there any opportunity to collaborate, like with the other big program that does summer camps in the community?
So I think right now, the issue that we're having is we're coming up to a very short time period before we have to post for a teacher and get all that and get everything situated. So it seems like right now needs to be that time for that decision. I think that's good for Parks and Rec to look more into the future, but it seems like right now we're at such a time crunch to say no or no go with that.
And it's basically a few hours of gym time supervised, right? They play in the gym at
Right.
this high school.
And I mean, if AWC wanted to donate their facilities, I mean,
that was part of the cost as well. We did AWC, and then we also have to pay for the school. So that, I mean, that was in
You
that
gotta pay for
whole
the
piece.
school?
We never had to pay for the school.
You didn't
with
pay the
Crit.
college, I don't think.
You don't have to pay, we never paid the high school anyway for both gyms for our summer.
We paid $900 for Blake last year.
They gotcha.
Oh, they use Blake.
Ask them why.
Blake, because
Because of the air.
AWC, I mean, Wallace's Dome,
Mhm.
their AC wasn't working, if I'm correct.
They were doing the floor in the other gym.
Yes, yes. I even thought, and this is way wishful thinking, Nora's probably gonna stop me before I even finish the sentence, but I know that the senior center's attendance kind of goes low in the summer. I even thought of closing the doors, or what are those called? Those
Yeah, the sliders.
and sliders, and using the back part, because it's a
There's
town
a
facility.
community center.
Yeah, because it's a community center, and using the back part for the kids. But then there is like the bathroom, you would have to open it for the kids to use the restroom, so there's other things to think about when you think about that as well. But it was a thought in my head,
I'm not
I'm trying
really
to think of everything besides no.
Sure that you want to mix the kids and the seniors and the,
I know, that's why I thought about the restrooms.
all of the.
Because there is no
Well,
restrooms on that
come
side
on.
of the building.
So
That would also affect their programming that they have daily.
Right.
I'm just curious about the school charging, because we do parenting programs over there. We've been doing them for 20 years. They've never charged us.
Yeah,
We had to add them as additional insured on our policy.
Maybe you know somebody that sits on the board over there.
I don't anymore, so
Oh.
it puts me in a better position to ask.
Oh, okay.
Well, if it
I'm an
makes
outsider now.
for anything, anytime we ever reserved the gym for SDP's camps, it was calling up Brad, telling him our dates. He'd get back to us if there was anything conflicting or not, and then it was a thumbs up or a thumbs down,
Yeah.
never any money
I
associated.
don't know if I'm allowed to talk.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I don't.
go ahead.
I will say, like Eric said, last year it was a rush. Like we did things, we didn't get the crit workers because we didn't have it in time. You know, it was one of those things that we tried to revamp because it had been done, you know, hadn't been done for a while.
Were you in April or were you in late May? I mean,
I
yeah.
mean, it would, I can't recall exactly, but we
Okay.
did, you know, rush in and get a lot of stuff done. So I think if we had a little bit more time, which we do now, we could have more conversations with Sale. We could find cheaper sponsors, donations, and stuff like that. So we just didn't want to just put it to bed without fighting a little bit for it because, you know, it's what we do.
I don't want to say
So
no, but I feel like we could get that cost way down and make it affordable.
That's kind of.
What's the pay for the teacher?
Total cost was 5,000 change, right? So that's-
5,394 was the total cost.
The
Oh,
total.
excluding staff time and additional.
Well, you're
insurance.
basically talking
Right, so
about
that's your food
16 days.
and whatever like balls they're buying.
15
and
half
stuff
days,
like that.
15 half days.
And you're paying them how much? An hour, you get an hourly rate or?
The
You
hour,
said it was pretty good pay.
it was more than,
Comparable to a summer
was-
school teacher. I've seen
It
those.
was more.
I was thinking of a guy like Coach Bell, who I think would be fan. He works with 50 kids at a time over there at the Blake
I mean,
Auditorium.
I am the biggest fan of doing for the kids in this community. I am. I'm 30 years of doing everything we can with these kids. But I'm also right now looking at the town's budget. And I have employees that don't have ink in their because we've held off. Are we gonna see the money? Yes, we will. Is it gonna come back around? Yes, it is. But right now, cash flow is, Steve finally got to hire at least one new person. So if we could get this to where we get donations and we can get the cost down, then
Yeah.
that would be, you know, great and wonderful. But the way that the kind of, the committee spoke the other day, they are kind of like to the top of asking for donations and going out and doing those kinds of things. So I know my staff doesn't have time to go out and do that. So just some things to think about.
The start date for this is when?
there's no start
the
date.
anticipated?
That could change. Like before, I think they did it just for 4 weeks, and that's why
Right.
like last year, Erin was able to do 2 weeks in June, 2 weeks in
Right.
July, so we worked over her schedule. Where if it was like a teacher that was like, I'm leaving all of June, but I'll do 4 weeks in July or
July,
something,
then
we're willing to work with that.
I think I like the 2 weeks, how she did it, each one, because
Yeah.
that leaves a couple weeks right before school to.
And
get
they
one
really
better.
based it last year, like of kids that weren't able to go to the PACE program and were kind of too young to just sit at home by themselves.
Right.
We worked with all of everybody else's summer happenings and looked at like when Crit was having theirs, so they didn't coincide, or if they did coincide, we'd have a different people that were coming to ours. I think right now, and I'm pushing for a yes, very encouraging. If we could at least get a yes and maybe even do a work session with Parks and Rec and say, this is what we're willing to do. Can we do this? Can we visit this?
That's,
Yeah. And then I lost my train of thought. There was
We would be
another reason.
moving or to approve the program, not necessarily the budget, right?
Well, I would
Tonight,
think
right?
probably the budget.
if you approve the program, I guess it depends on how you make your motion as to how you do this. If you use, the verbiage, yes, you want to continue with the program or whatever, then you've basically just given us the okay to do whatever. If you put in your motion that you want to look at doing whatever.
Looking for alternative
look at
funding
it-
or something?
Yes,
Visiting stuff, like, because if we could talk to the school, that's gonna cut $900 off.
right.
Right, I have some ideas too in terms of
Right,
finding
I mean,
money.
there's ways to cut some of this budget, given your,
The reason I say that I wish that we could do like a work session as of yesterday is because April 30th, PACE has their huge meeting with all of like the summer
They
programs.
work out their summer schedule.
Yeah, and that goes everywhere to La Paz County. So it'd be perfect, even if we didn't say, this is what you're gonna come to our, but if we had Town of Park is gonna have our recreation summer program June 15th through the 29th, and July 2nd through these are dates that I'm just pulling off the top of my head. That could be Saturday.
And I know they did that last year. You got, the committee actually invited Crit and all of the programs to come, and they really worked with them as to what dates they were gonna do, and that's a little bit how we started with Erin in the 2 weeks, and then we had to kind of work around her a little bit with schedule. So Parks and Rec has done their due diligence as far as timing and what works for the kids and what works for the families.
I have a plan. Yeah, if we can get the school district to waive the fees, I think I can find half that money. 2,500, basically.
So I'd like to make the motion to approve the budget with the caveat that there's a separate work session with Parks and Rec in order to try to further reduce cost.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Cool.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the summer program with the understanding that we'll talk about budget, try to bring the budget down.
Yeah, and maybe some potential collabs too, because if you involve the right people, there's money
Yeah.
attached to it, so.
For sure.
What was your motion?
My motion was to approve the program with the caveat that there's going to be a separate work session to try to further reduce the cost of the
Well,
program.
you're talking about a council work session or just a,
With
With
It is-
Parks and Rec, could we do it?
because we have to throw a meeting together pretty quick here. Hit that April 30th.
I wouldn't necessarily say it has to be a work session as a whole. It could be a couple members,
Liaison and.
liaison
the
specified
committee.
with that.
Okay,
That had any ideas, that's
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because I would like to get that April 30th deadline, everything pinned down so that you can go to that meeting and say, this is what we're doing, these are the dates we're doing it. Okay.
Perfect.
All right, so moved and seconded to approve the summer program with the understanding that we'll try to bring down the costs. All those in favor? Aye. Marion's gone. Motion carries. Okay, item 4, discussion and action to approve, deny the amendment of the Healthy People, Healthy Communities grant contract. Council may vote to discuss this matter in executive session. Is that something we want to do, Christina, do you think?
That's just if you need legal advice. So we can always start now, and then if you guys
Okay.
decide you need to, we can move into e-session.
All right, let's roll then. Nora?
Okay, so our, let me grab it here. Wrong one. Especially request that mayor and council approve the amendment to Healthy People, Healthy Choices Grant Contract. That is our CHOP program that we have. The county, we would like to amend the contract to end the fourth quarter and not renew it at the beginning of the year. The county has offered to transfer that contract or pick up that contract. They transferred it to us several years ago due to layoffs, and the program typically requires about 4 people and a department head to run efficiently. When the senior center lead changed, the program, CHOP program and the senior program merged. However, we've discovered that while the programs are similar, the Healthy People, Healthy Choice program is deemed to require specialized staffing and specific times. Additionally, we found that the county already provides many of the same services that are covered by the grant they're doing now. It doesn't cost us to not finish out this. We won't be able to collect the fourth quarter, but we won't have the program either, so the cost will kind of just wash itself out, and then the following steps will be for the staff to coordinate with Arizona Department of Health Services to close out our grant cycle and move it on over to, to the county.
Yeah, and to me, this is like the end of a ridiculous era. We should have never gotten involved in this thing. You know, it was done for nefarious reasons, in my opinion. It wasn't just about, you know, we're gonna lay people off. It was personality clashes at the county. And we were sold this bag of goods that, oh, this is a great thing, and it's not gonna, not only is it not gonna cost this town anything, we're gonna make money because there's overhead costs, and we get that money. But that's, none of that was really true. This program cost us money, and there's no benefit to the town. There was a point where there was not even anything happening over there at that chop shop. They're all at the community center working. They merged those positions, they got exorbitant salaries and told us they were all paid for by the grant, don't worry about it. And I don't think any of that was true. So I'm really glad to be able to get rid of this program. Again, I don't think it's benefiting anybody at this point, and I don't feel like we're cutting off people that need services. The services they were doing are being done by other organizations, as far as I can tell, in this town. And that chop shop was serving the entire county. It's a lot like the meals program. It was serving the entire county. Of course, it was supposed to be paid for all that, but I think the town of Parker is being served by other organizations that are taking care of those things. So I feel really good about this. I'm glad it's finally, because I know you guys, some of you guys weren't on council at the time, but the way they brought it was, hey, it's just temporary. It's only for a year, just for a year, and then we'll put it back to the county. And then next year it became, well, we're gonna do it for one more year. Well, that was 10 years ago. I mean, maybe 8 years ago, but, so to me, this is, hooray, let's get rid of this thing, is how I feel. Just putting that out there.
Really cost us a lot of, it doesn't really cost us money, but the employees are, I mean, they need to be very specialized, and we're down to one employee in this group, and she's only been with us for a year. It's a lot of work, and I think the combining the two programs were kind of where we went sideways.
And that office that they rent is, you know, it's, I don't know, it's like $2,000 a month or something. That'll go away too. So my only concern would be the U of A. We rented U of A a space in there, I believe, but.
Yes, we do. We rent them one office in there a month. I've spoken with her. We have a place for her at the senior center if she chooses to go over there. The county has also offered her a spot within their facility. So we have spoken with her, and we've met with Arizona Department of Health Services and started that closeout kind of process.
I feel like there's a storage unit involved in this too.
There
is there?
is.
Okay. Because I know they used to keep the car seats or something
The
in
car
there.
seats are in there, and.
You
so-
guys are on that.
I will just say for a record too, if this program was run correctly, I think it would have been amazing. The mental health portions, the teen prevention, pregnancy prevention portions, suicide prevention, all that stuff. But I don't think it was ever able to really run correctly. So I don't want to say the town's getting rid of it and we don't think these things are important. I really want that to go on record. Like, these things are very, very important. It's just that we weren't meeting these. So therefore it was,
But I
like
would
you
say,
said, the
I would say it was
offices-
run very well at one point.
It was very well at one
Certainly,
point, yeah.
but the senior center mix-up, mash-up is when it all
It turned
went.
into a big gray area, yeah.
And I think the county will do a wonderful job picking this up and getting the services back out there the way that they need to be.
Yeah.
Makes much more sense for being a county function instead of a town function. And with that, I'll make the motion to approve, letting it go over to the county.
I'll second.
Okay, and that's the amendment, that we're giving it up on June 30th, basically. Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the amendment to the Healthy People, Healthy Communities Grant Contract. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, council member liaison reports. Any Anybody have anything?
This Saturday is the Parks and Rec Easter Egg Extravaganza. We would love to see you guys there. The Easter Bunny will be there. We have lots of eggs. If you guys are bored tomorrow, stop by the chamber and you can help Parks and Rec stuff some Easter eggs. And then I don't think we meet again before the 25th. It is on here, but the town of Parker has the APS tree planting ceremony at Western Park, and that should be interesting as well.
Well, that's Friday.
Yeah, that's
evening.
Friday, April 25th.
Okay.
Friends of the Library, I think last time I said that they were trying for a Pepsi scholarship. They did receive it, and they're going to begin the Gatorades for their summer program here soon. The Friends of the Library did donate a few $100s worth of books, and they did receive all them in. They just had a rummage sale, and their fundraiser went very well, raising about $450. And it's going to be an annual rummage sale that they're going to be holding in March every year. They're working on getting their building delivered, which is expected in the May, I believe they stated, time period.
It's a storage building.
I think that's where they're going to be having some of their book sales
Yeah.
and with that out of. And one of their main major focuses of what they're going to try to go forward is trying to work on getting more friends, more members for the Friends of the Library.
I know Council Shantz isn't here tonight, but I did attend joint venture just to hear it, and I will just, oh, Josh, sorry, I'm speaking over you. You go ahead.
Going with the joint venture, we're still working on funding right now. As we speak, the town's progressing very well towards their funding. And that's about what I got.
What does that mean?
It just means we're working.
So, we applied for, in conjunction with joint venture for the WIFA grant. It's a $5 million grant, loan with $2 million of that, forgivable.
It's like 1.2% interest or something, right?
And the rest of it is 1.5% at this point. We've made it through two of the hoops were on the last one to be approved for that. It hasn't been completely decided exactly how that $3 million is going to be split between us and the tribe. But so that's kind of in the works. And then we will be applying again for the congressional, which is a $2 million grant. We've kind of figured, and there's a little bit of heartburn between both entities here as to who owes what and how much and all of that. The way that taking the water and how they figured all this out, I'm not exactly sure how the math was done, but joint venture is telling us our percentage is $7 million. So with the WIFA and with the congressional that I'm sure we'll get again, because we were approved for that for last year before it got swept. We have another $1 million grant that we're working on trying to get as well. So at the end of the day, we are hoping that all of ours will come out of a grant / very low maintenance or low interest loan. At this point at the meeting, CRIT has not applied for any grants. They haven't. I know council was meeting, I believe the next day to do some business with that. I have not heard how that has worked out. The manager of joint venture, Aaron, has turned in his resignation and his last day was last week. So they have appointed a temporary manager, and little Sarah is working her heart out over there trying to get everything accomplished that she can. I know that Christina has been trying her best to get a hold of their attorney. So WIFA's attorney, Christina, and the joint ventures attorney can all discuss the contracts. We haven't had much success in getting in touch with him. Sarah is working on that as well, so that's kind of where we stand with that.
So the anticipated total cost to us is $7 million. Is that what I'm hearing? So the
That is
total,
what you're hearing.
the total project, is it closer to 14 million?
It's closer to 19.
19.
Yeah, and
So we're assuming that we're not going to be, that they're taking a larger
no, I
percentage,
think
or?
we're,
We'll
and
probably.
we may be way off track here, but I think that's their vision of what,
That's the
based on
joint-
the
mhm,
breakdown, that's how much we should be paying.
mhm.
That doesn't mean the other entity's gonna go, yeah, you're right,
We'll just do that.
they might just wanna do a 50/50, and there may be a point where we just have to suck it up and do that to get it done,
Absolutely.
you know, to try to just get the project finished,
But getting this WIFA thing going, and that will get the project at least started. And that's
yeah,
what we need
that's
right
good.
now.
engineering and stuff.
Isn't the congressional grant, I think, due next week?
Yes, at the very end
Yeah.
of next week, yes.
And meanwhile, their permits are still pulled for Head Start and everything, right? They can't connect Head Start or anything?
They cannot connect Head Start. We were given the ability to hook 3 small projects up to the sewer. So there was a home down on Fifth, I believe, and then there's another one over on the other side of town, which is on a lot. She was able to hook, and then Bob Longo's building was able to hook. So the bugs are getting worked out. We just hope every day that, the other tank doesn't go down. But small projects.
Okay, any other liaison reports, anything? Announcements, Wednesday, April 16th, joint venture meeting, that's tomorrow, yeah,
They switched it to
okay.
second Tuesday, or second Wednesdays.
Oh, so that was last week?
Yeah.
Okay. Thursday, the 17th, chamber mixer at the Pirates Den, 5:30. Friday is the Colorado River Services Annual Sexual Assault Awareness Walk. Is that takeoff? Oh, it takes off from the splash pad. And at that same time, is then at the APS thing, or is that next Friday?
No, it's the
Okay.
next Friday at 10 a.m.
All right, so that walk is at 5:30 at the splash pad. Saturday is the egg extravaganza, 10 a.m. at Western Park. Friday, the 25th, is the tree planting ceremony at Western Park. To be determined, I thought it said 10, 9 or 10-ish, 10, okay. Monday, the 28th, streets and traffic. And then Tuesday, May 6th, next regular council meeting. This meeting's adjourned. Thanks, Christina.
Sure, good night.
Everyone.